Thanksgiving side.
I was looking at that logo. How are we doing? Okay, Friday had a good start to the week here. Got to finish it strong these next 2 days, and got to be on our best on Sunday. Have a chance to win. Be a fun game. What we got?
JG, I know you haven't coached other sports, obviously, but okay. Well, then I'll give you that. In basketball, baseball, it seems like it might be a little easier to bring in a guy on a trade and integrate them, maybe more than football because of the nuances and complicated playbooks of football. Do you find that to be true? If you bring a guy in a trade, do you think it takes a little bit longer in this sport than maybe others?
Yeah, I haven't coached other sports at the pro level. My kids' sports, I try to. Actually, I don't. Yeah, everybody's different. Every situation's different. Obviously, what goes overlooked is the mental part of the game with these guys. I feel like sometimes, like what they do on a day-to-day basis, and to get ready to play a game and play a game, is mind-boggling. I think if you guys knew what they actually have to know, there's a lot that goes into it. The mental part of the game. So you treat everybody different, and every situation's different, and you just try to get them caught up to speed as quick as you can, and hopefully they can impact the game for you.
Can you put in perspective? You said that it's mind-boggling. What are some of the things that the average person might not be able to realize?
Too much to talk about, honestly. I mean, we talk about alignment, assignment, key technique. 100 of those in a game, along with all these other things going on, the game within the game, these guys are smart, man. They really are.
How much a chance does Browning have to maybe play this weekend?
We'll see how he goes today, but he had a good first couple days here, and we'll see what he does today.
When it comes to Buda Baker, we talked about him obviously with you at length. What does he do on the field that kind of goes, that's not on this bench, that makes him kind of a step above everybody else?
I would say the first thing that comes to my mind is his brain, the amount of communication that's needed from him and the safeties and everybody really, but he really starts that communication on the back end. Obviously we use his skill set a lot of different ways because he can impact the game a lot of different ways. So that's cool, but that puts on, some mental stress to him, and he picks it up with ease. But the other thing I would say, is kind of a roundabout answer to your question is the amount of time that Nick and PT and even those two more than myself, but myself too, ask him throughout the week, early in the week, different things, what he sees, because he's smart, you know what I mean? He understands the game. He understands what our structures and our defense is trying to get done. And he also understands the offensive football too. So it's cool to have a back and forth with him. Hey, this is how I see it. I don't see it like that, JG. Why? Okay, yeah, you're right. I never thought about it from that perspective. So, I've always said, if you want to learn football, ask the players. That's a guy that we lean on, to help us develop how to defend. So his value is, you can't put a price tag on it.
Jonathan, you talked a lot about this team's ability to focus on the moment and only the moment, not look ahead. With playoff chatter out there, with the bye week coming, are you still feeling that?
There is no playoff chatter right now in our building. It's week 10.
It's that simple. These guys stay focused.
That simple. Don't make it complicated.
Jonathan, did Darius Robinson suffer a setback?
No, he's doing a good job, getting better every day. Hopefully we'll get him out here soon.
You obviously knew when you got here 2 years ago that Kyler could make plays in this. When did you appreciate what he could do? Was it after he came back last year, or what he's doing this year?
With what part of this game?
That you get himself out of trouble, stuff like that.
I kind of knew it when I got here. He's one of those guys, there's not many of them in the world that are that elite at doing that. There's other guys that can extend, but I think that part of his game is elite. I've always thought that since he got in the league.
What kind of juice does that give you guys when he gets out of stack or something.
He's a playmaker, so that gives anybody juice. However you make plays, that gives the team juice. We got a bunch of playmakers, but when he makes some plays, some of the things that he does, yeah, obviously, it's helping us win games.
Back to the issue of bringing in someone new, is it possible to create, at least in the beginning, a limited package that someone could have at least some kind of impact without kind of knowing it all?
Depends. It really does. It depends, Howard. Yes and no, with all the factors that go into not just what you do, too, who you're playing, so that factors into it a lot. So it kind of just depends.
The NFL is such a week-to-week league, and you also focus on trying to get better week after week after week. How have you seen this team grow from week one?
Yeah, I think the coaches have done a good job of identifying with each individual player, hey, it's a new game plan, it's a new opponent, but there are certain fundamentals and techniques that we have to do a good job with, There's a lot of things that come up week to week that are new. There's also a lot of things that come up week to week that are the same. And, you try to focus, you give them a couple things where they're mindful of and they have to execute, and you want to see them get better. Because that in turn helps them win some one-on-ones and it helps your unit too. So, just because you don't emphasize something a certain week, like we might have emphasized it 3 weeks ago, well, that can't go away. You know what I mean? Like we got better at this, but now because maybe you talk about everything, but there's only certain things, you only have so much time to emphasize so much of the game, And typically I always call them, it's kind of like the fourth grade fundamentals. Like we got to make sure we do this right. Tackling, blocking, running, catching, throwing. You know what I mean? And it's like, hey, you got to make sure we throw and catch it on third down. No kidding, JG. But that's important. You know what I mean? There's fundamentals that go into that. So, taking out scheme or who we're going against or what play it is, So, I think our guys have done a good job on making sure their technique has been getting better and better and better as we've gone on. So it's got to continue to show up, though, because as soon as it takes a downfall, you're not going to win.
What's the latest with Matt Prater? How's he progressing?
He's doing well. He was in there today. He's doing well. He's itching to get back out there.
Do you expect him to play again this season?
Yeah, I do.
JG, speaking of technique, I talked to Melton yesterday. He said confidence and technique are the keys to his position. Have you seen him grow in that position over the weeks?
Yeah, in both those areas, I'd say that when his technique is right, he makes more plays, which then in turn gives him more confidence. So I think there's a direct correlation to playing with good technique and making plays. That's obviously going to up your confidence. But he's all our corners do a good job of identifying why they made the play or why they didn't make the play, and what could have done better on both of those situations. And that's a tough position to play. I would, that's my baby, but I would say probably the hardest on defense, truthfully, because we ask a lot of those guys, and their their one-on-ones are in space, out on an island, versus elite athletic, players. So we ask a lot of our guys, but they're doing a good job with the techniques. And like I said, I think after the game, our guys have probably a couple more techniques that they have to be proficient in than other teams, right, wrong, indifferent. That's just what we do. But they can handle it mentally, and they show they can execute them at a high level. So we're going to use that part of their skill set to help the defense. And they've all done a good job with it. That's a good question.
Are you hard on them because
I'm hard on everybody. I'm hard on everybody, but yeah, I'm hard on them.
You talked about it a lot, but what you just explained, because of things you ask the players to do, how much is that a big part of when you bring in guys, of believing that they can handle that?
Yeah, it is, and then and every person's different, every player's different. How quick it gets them to that proficiency of what they have to execute, So that goes kind of to your question, Donnie. It's like, okay, you're doing this well, you're doing this well, you're doing this well, but man, look at these reps of this. Like, you got to get better at this. You know what I mean? So every player is different, but they got to be proficient in what we're asking them to do, When you talk to Nick next, he's got a cool way of saying, I'm going to botch it, but like the scheme sets forth the techniques, which sets forth the movement patterns and what they have to be proficient in. You know what I mean? So it's like it kind of is a, you know, here's the scheme, here's the techniques that need to be played. Can this guy do those things? You know what I mean? And if certain guys can't, you really can't play those things, you know? So that's why we look for versatility. That's why we look for guys that can do some different things, you know. If a guy's just a press man corner, I'm thinking about DBs now. If a guy's just a press man corner and he can't play cloud, do you want to play cloud with him, knowing that if that's where the ball goes, it's not going to be good for you? You know what I mean? So they got to be well-rounded players with a lot of techniques. That's kind of a long answer there, Howard. Sorry.
What's the latest on Jonah?
He's doing well. He was out there yesterday. He's been out there this week, you know, one day at a time with him, but he's itching, you know what I mean? So we'll be smart with him and see when he can get back out there.
Coach, thanks.
Okay. Thank you, guys. Have a good weekend.